Hi, I'm Justin Wink, Ph.D., and you're listening to the Engineering Emotions and Energy Podcast. Are you ready to bust burnout, pursue your passion, have more time, money, energy, and relationships you actually love, including the relationship with yourself? If so, then this podcast is for you. I'm a best-selling author, coach, consultant, speaker, and a leader in transforming people's lives from living in fear, obligation, and guilt to living a life of joy, ease, and love. What's most important is that I can teach you all this in a way that's enjoyable, easy, fast, and can actually last. Let's begin. Welcome to the show. I'm Justin Wink. Today, we are going to be talking about taking the leap into something new. And I'm taking the leap by not doing this podcast all on my own. I have a fantastic guest. And just to make her feel welcome, I want to do this intro in a very, very special way. So Keri Lynn Norley is the Wealth Alchemist. She is an international wealth and soul alignment activator, mentor, speaker, podcaster, and author. She's the author of not one, not two, crocky. She's the author of 4 books, blimey, including the international bestseller, The Wealth. No, all right, I got to actually read it too. The New Wealth. Magnetize Abundance, and that's magnetize with an S, because we're not talking about the way us the Yanks, the fucking Yanks would spell it, which would be with like a Z. It's with a Z. Sorry, did they say Z in Aussie land, or did they say
Z? They say
Z. Yeah, so it's not with the Z. It's magnetize abundance. Hold your wealth and leave a legacy. She also has an international top charted podcast, The Wealth Alchemist, and is launching podcast number 2. It's not a shitty one. It's her second podcast, and it's going to be called Unmasked. So look for that where your greater podcasts are sold. All right, I'm going to just say the rest in my American. Her mission and passion is to help shift the wealth consciousness of the planet in BD. No big deal. She speaks to healing generational conditioning and how that plays out in relationships, health, and personal finances. She is an American Aussie living in Colorado and loves dancing and good quality chocolate. So yeah, so when she's on and you hear some weird terms of things, I'll make sure that we translate for my non-Aussie speaking listeners out there, of which I know there are many. The best place to connect with Keri is on her Facebook at facebook.com, Keri Norley 1. So Keri Norley without the number 1, that is a fake. You don't want that. But on Insta, you do want at Keri Norley. This is all going to go in the show notes. Make it really easy. She's also, you've heard of Crypto Bros. She's is it a crypto bra? I think she's got a crypto bra. She has training on crypto. She really knows her shit. KeriNorley.com/crypto intro.
Oh my God, Justin, my
welcome to the show. G'day, mate. Keri Norley, put shrimp on the barbie. I was trying to look up very Aussie sayings, but most start to just reference weird places to shop and eat and things like that. I'm just like, oh. I know Tim Hortons for the Canadians, and I don't need to know anymore. McDonald's is everywhere, so don't need to know more fast food. So welcome to the show. So we're talking about leaping into something new, and we're not talking about leaping into something you don't want, but something you want, but something that might be a little scary. It's a little edgy. It's a little bit like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Should I do this? What do people think about me? So this is actually kind of a good follow-up to the podcast that went out the previous week, which was about getting over judgments, and because people are just going to be judging us no matter what. From the day we're born, we're getting judged, because I was reading something from my 3rd grade teacher that was all about my strengths and my weaknesses. And it's just funny to think of an 8-year-old and, here's what Justin's good at. Here's what Justin's not good at. Justin's breadth of literature is not up to par for a fucking 8-year-old.
The shit that people said, hey?
Yeah, it was funny. So you're clearly experienced at leaping into things. I mean, from your bio with books, podcasts. What's this latest thing that you told me about? And I was like, let's do a podcast.
Yeah, it's funny because This is the first time I'm speaking it, knowing it's going to be public soon. So the decision I made last week is to move into paid professional speaking, which isn't like, when I think about it and we say everything that's just happened, of like everything you just described out of my world, doesn't seem like a big leap, but in my world feels like a ginormous leap.
Yeah. And for you, what was the flavor of like, because it's one of those, you hear the biography and you're like, well, of course people want to pay this person to come speak. Like, look at all the things that they've done. Yet when you're on the other side, when you're you and your brain and all the feelings come up, what is it that's just like, oh, wait. And then how did you actually, move into owning it and going like, this is fucking happening. I'm doing this.
That's a really good question. I think it starts with a little bit prior, is that I think for years, for years I've been saying, if I could get paid to speak and write, I'd be a really happy woman. And I say it over and over again, if I could get paid to speak and write, I'd be a really happy woman. And there's a lot of people who, when you look at me from the position from the outside, from everything that you've just heard, I have a podcast, I'm an author of multiple books. I have been speaking for years. I have been on big stages. And the difference being that when you're in that, like, a lot of people think that there's like a lot of, I'm going to say, glory in this, or there's a lot of financial abundance. And you and I both know, having run podcasts for years, that like, yes, this is an amazing medium, but it takes time to build an audience. It takes time for things to come out of fruition monetarily from a podcast. You can go on stages. I spoke on a stage, in an international speaking. I've been on multiple international stages. It does not mean that it equates to a penny. And a lot of people don't get that when it comes to this experience. And a lot of times we do it as speakers to be seen, to get into a bigger growth of people that we get in front of. We want to create, as I'm going to speak for myself, but the speakers that I know, of course, we're here to create an impact and create change and help spread a message, right? So I want to get out in front of as many people as I humanly possibly can, because I know that, as you said, and you went, not a big deal, changing the wealth conscious of this planet is no small feat, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to talk to as many people as humanly possible in order to do that. And so the other piece of it is that a lot of people will say that in order to actually get to quote unquote paid speaking gigs, first of all, some people will never take this road. Some people in this path that I've been in, that you look at from the outside and that you're in too, right, Justin? Like, it doesn't equate to that people go out and get a paid speaking gig. It means that I can go and I can give my services to people, and that maybe that it grows that audience. And I get into my beautiful community and into my social media and into my email letters and all that stuff. And if they choose to buy from there, they do. If they don't, they don't. That's their choice. And it's a very different experience than saying, I'm going to go and speak for 60 minutes and someone's going to pay me thousands of dollars. And that my little voice, and I say this like, because this is what happens in my head. Who, me, this little voice? What are you talking about? You want to pay me thousands of dollars for 60 minutes? Are you kidding?
Oh boy.
Like, I've had to work so hard to get my voice heard other places. And I think the difference being, like, sometimes when we're in this position, and I'm, you might have your own parts in this too, that sometimes it feels like I'm speaking to a whole bunch of, I don't know, like ghosts, right? When I sit on a computer like this and we put a voice out into the podcast world, I don't necessarily get a response from everybody. And sometimes it's really lonely. It can be really one way, right? And sometimes it's like, is there anyone out there listening?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of other coaches yesterday, and one woman her complaint was like, there's someone stealing my material. I put it out there, and then she's creating shirts out. And I'm just thinking, like, I fucking wish someone cared enough to steal some of my stuff. Like, at least I would know one person's listening. A lot of the time it is. Then every now and then someone's like, I just heard that episode where you did this exercise, and oh my gosh, it made my day. And that could be 6 months, a year. You never know.
You never know. And it's true. And like, I run into people and they're like, I've been listening to your show for a year. I wait every week. And I'm like, how come I want to know? Tell me, I want to hear from you.
They're just quietly killing it. They're getting the good stuff, incorporating it, and going on and living an even better life. Yeah. It's
right. Yeah. And so when you go into this, I think for me, going into this world is like saying that I'm making the choice that my literal 60 minutes makes thousands of dollars versus like waiting and hoping and like, and that whole experience, like, oh my God, someone really wants that. And is that valuable? Oh, and so that's the piece for me to own into, which is like, wow. And it's not about the time. Like, we know this, right? It's not about the time. Like, honestly, I've been doing this for so many years that I've put in the time. Right. And I always say this is kind of like the plumber.
Time in what way? Do you mean like the literal 60 minutes, or do you mean the prep time? Or
yes, it's not exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So like, I'm sitting here saying to you, like, as a paid professional speaker, what the intention being is that you're making thousands of dollars, anywhere from 2.5 to 10, 25, like down the track, there's plenty of money to be made in this experience.
Yeah.
And so when you start to like think to myself, I'm like, oh, so it would be normal to get $5,000 gigs, and I would just go once a week and do a talk for 60 minutes. And that's what I get to do. And then I get to be abundantly rewarded for that. And I don't have to worry about anything else besides that. And everything else on top of that is this major amazingness, and that it puts you in front of the ideal clients, right? And I get paid to be in front of them, versus the way we play this here, that we have to...
Well, basically pay to get in front of people. Yeah.
We're paying to get in front of people. Right. Yeah. And so it's a very different, even though it sounds the same, it's actually a very different switch in the mindset of it and the choice of how this plays out, and like where almost like, I guess, as far as business goes, like where the funnel starts in a different way, if that makes sense. And so it's just a different energy, and it's a different valuing. And it's like, what I was saying just now is like, it's like the plumber, that we pay the plumber to go in, and it takes 1 second to knock the pipe that was like, thank God you've just fixed that, but it was exploding everywhere. And thank God you knew exactly that 5 minutes, and we have to pay you $1,000 for 5 minutes. Yeah. Well, it's not the 5 minutes. It's the years and years and years of experience that they've had before. And so this has been the journey for me, as I've really just been working through that mental game, which is, it's not that thousands of dollars that I'm sitting there. It's the years and years and years and years that I've journeyed to be able to deliver this to you in 60 minutes and rock your world.
Yeah. They're going to have an experience in 60 minutes. It's going to change their life, and be something they're going to want to tell other people about. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got to see Keri speak.
Right.
You totally go see her when she's in your town. Yeah.
Right. And it's a thing, like, it's just like, I think no matter how it gets played out in this experience of being a messenger on the planet, so much of the inner game is allowing ourselves to be seen and to be valued as who we are.
Yeah. Well, so I think you've answered my question sort of like at the intellectual of, what's in it for you, but what you just told me, there's nothing that changed, that's always been the case with being a paid public speaker for, I don't know, probably the last 50s. I don't know, forever, as long as there's been public paid speakers. What changed in you or your circumstances where you're like, I will now finally allow myself to go for this. I will stop just making it something that like, oh, if only then, to something that I am doing this.
That's a really good question.
Do you finally decide that you'll allow yourself to be happy? Because you must not have been happy, because if I could be a paid speaker, then you'd be happy, and you hadn't been a paid speaker, so you must not have been happy.
Right.
So are you going to finally be happy now? Is that, or?
Oh, Justin. Now you're asking the deep questions. By the way, anyone who's listening, he does do this, by the way, if you ever want to work with him. It's the deep questions.
That's why I only do 30-minute sessions. Like, people can't
handle all the deep questions.
Like, I'm sore.
God, Justin. Okay, the answer to that, it actually has a lot to do with our process. So Justin and I met in book writing. And so through the book writing process and through my own experience in really knowing myself in the book writing container and really learning where I excel best, because it is a container that really sets me up to excel in a beautiful way, I started to really hone into like, what am I good at? What am I best at? How does my brain function best? And if I was to live at my ultimate states, what does that actually look like? And what I've really started to come down to is, especially because in human design, I'm a manifestor, like my job is to initiate. And so when I get in front of a group of people and they are open and willing to receive the initiation, the experience that I have is orgasmic. It's so freaking delicious to me. I'm like, oh my God, I get to initiate people who want to be initiated. And my whole body is like leans into, yes. So when I started thinking about speaking, I was like, oh, wait, so people want to pay me to be initiated and I get to lean into, oh, that sounds amazing. And when I really started to, again, honor into, okay, what's my design? How do I function best in human design? It isn't in holding long containers. It isn't in holding communities for years upon years upon years. I don't have that energy as a manifester. And so how do I financially support myself in an abundant way, knowing that these are these things that I want to be doing, and how is the best way for me to do that for myself, and knowing that I have kids to take care of. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked into a podcast movement, I actually had spoken to someone recently that like over that last week, it's a friend of mine.
So before we get into that, I want to kind of like go, there's like a couple terms that you brought up that I'm like, I don't know if everybody listening might actually know. And maybe like, what the fuck did she just talk about? Is this Aussie speak? Is this
that's my speak. Tell me.
Well, so like, I think a quick, like, what is human design? I'll give my crack at it, and then maybe you add a little bit of color. Is I look at a lot of people know astrology, where it's like, okay, what's your astrological forecast if you're a Pisces? What's the reading for today? It can be similar to that, and then is based off of when you were born, but it's a little bit more specific, and then it requires your place and your time of birth, so that it can get like a whole lot of information of like, what was the configuration of the universe, and then kind of tell you some information about your likely predispositions of how you might operate in the world. And there's some of these things where it's like, fuck, I don't want to be that way. Because she mentioned that she's a manifester, which has certain qualities, and I'm a projector, which has other qualities. And the biggest quality, the famous one, is that projectors are supposed to wait for the invitation. And when I first heard that like 8 years ago, I was like, well, this is shitty. I just sit around and wait for someone to tap me on the shoulder and go like, you're good enough, Justin. I want you to do this thing. But there really is ends up being a lot of more nuance and a whole lot of, and it basically just gives ideas of like, these are perfectly acceptable ways to be a human on earth as well. Like not everybody has to be, I love using Tony Robbins because most people know who Tony Robbins is. Like not everyone has to do this like Tony Robbins. Not everyone has to go and fill up a stadium and yell and make people walk through fire like he does. There's other ways to coach people, guide people, market and other stuff. And human design is one of, I would say, many ways for people to get like the breadth of human possibility. Anything else you want to, or did I?
The only thing I would add is ultimately it's an energetic blueprint of how you are designed to show up in the world. And as Justin said, most people, when they get introduced to it, if you guys go and look, you can go and find out more about it. If you go to like humandesignamerica.com, go and check it out. You can get your chart. There's information there and go and have a play. But when you find out, most people a lot of people, not most, but a lot of people will have a resistance to it because we've been conditioned to be certain ways in society, like that we're all supposed to be certain ways, but we're not. And when we actually lean into the way that we are designed to live, we actually function better and live better.
Yeah.
Things get easier.
Things go easier. It's more joyful. Yeah. It's like, well, if I'm going to go in sales, I'm supposed to learn how to cold call. And it's like, not all sales requires cold calling, especially if you're like me, a projector. Cold calling is probably one of the most miserable things. It's not going to work out anyway. Whereas, I don't know, probably Keri could probably cold call people.
I'd be really good at cold calling people.
Yeah. So then
not that I like it, but I'd be really good at it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is just because you're good at it doesn't mean you like it or want to do it. And just because you're bad at it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means maybe it'll be different, or you have to figure it out, or you have to have like a real good reason why. So the initiation, what does it mean to initiate? Initiate, because this is sounding like culty, like you're going initiating somebody in. Ooh, right? Yeah. Is this
initiate? So, okay, I'll do a brief explanation into the human design, which is the human design part of manifesting. So we have these different energetic blueprints, and ultimately each one has their way of showing up in the world. So as a manifestor, we are designed to, as Justin just said, initiate. I'll explain it in a second. Justin just said he's a projector, which means that he's here to be a guide. And ultimately, he's like a lighthouse that stands and holds this beautiful light. And we all want to come towards him because his guidance is so beautiful. And that is true. And then there's the others that are like 70% of the population, which are the generators and manifesting generators. And they are the workhorse power people that just go, and do. And then you have the reflectors, who are the people who reflect everything back. So that's my very, very big, brief overview. And so as a manifestor, my job, we are 8% of the population energetically, and we are the only ones who are designed to, what we just said was initiate, which means we start things. So basically, if you can look at this whole concept as like, there's a big, huge boulder on a hill, and I got to start it. So my job is to push this boulder and get it started. And then Justin's probably going to guide me and he's going to go, Keri, push it this way. You got it. Keep pushing. You're doing great. It's very true, right?
And
You're doing awesome, Justin.
And then I take a nap.
And I go, okay, I'm really tired. I've pushed it. I've started it. And I'm going to throw it off to a generator or a manifesting generator. And they're going to go freaking run. And they're going to take it and they're going to build it. And they're going to have the systems built out. And they're going to be generating. They're going to be all day like busy bees doing their thing. And so that's how, if we look at this together, like how it all kind of happens. And without all of us doing our part, then we don't function as well in a human society.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Feeling overwhelmed by the daily grind? Imagine if you could pause, reset, and truly connect with a calmer, more fulfilled you. It's not just a dream, it's absolutely possible. Hi, I'm Justin, and I invite you to discover the life-changing techniques in my book, Engineered to Love. Right now, I'm offering a free chapter complete with guided audios that have already helped so many people find peace amidst the chaos. These aren't just any techniques. They're transformative practices designed to help you love yourself and engage deeply with the present moment, without even having to close your eyes to the world around you. So join us at engineeredtolove.com/sample and access your free guided session. It's time to bust the busyness and embrace the joy, ease, and love in your everyday life. Don't wait. Start your journey to a more relaxed and recharged you today, because you deserve to live a life you love. Visit engineeredtolove.com/sample. See you there. Yeah. And so the boulder in the case is like an idea or a way of living or something like that. And you're initiating, you're instructing, going like, hey, I've started this way of thinking, this way of being, this way of living. And you're getting the people listening into that. Is that kind of what you mean by you're initiating them into?
As a manifestor, our job is to inform. And ultimately, a lot of the leaders that you would have seen in the world are manifestors, because it's our job to like be the people in the front leading the path, in informing people of what's coming, what's happening, how we move this way, how you go that way. And a lot of us are, I would say, seers or visionaries. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the big role that we'll play in the world. And a lot of us are here to awaken. And so we have these roles energetically, which makes sense that I would then choose to be a speaker. I'm here. Like my energetic design is, let me come and awaken people and initiate you into a new way of being, into a new way of thinking, into a new way of experiencing life. And so that's how that all kind of plays out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And so you've been aware of this. And so now let's go to, you're at a podcast
so I'm at
conference.
A podcasting conference, and I see a guy, I'm going to make this story short, but I see a friend of mine, and he's gone from this, I'm going to say free speaking that we hope we put a cast and net out that eventually will, it does bring money back. That's for sure. Like otherwise you wouldn't do it at all.
Some people do just like to hear themselves talk and get the praise. And
it's true. It's true. Yeah. So he had gone from there to paid. And I was asking him, like, what was the thing? And he was telling, basically, I hit the pavement long enough and hard enough and had got enough in front of people. And I was like, God, that's a long road. And I walk in the next day, manifestor style. And I had no idea, but there's a booth, as they do at all sorts of these expos and things. And the guy is called the Speaker Lab. And I walk up, I'm like, what are you guys? What do you do? And I was like, oh my God, you have everything that I've ever wanted in a program, really? And it was just like my whole manifestor self said yes, like, oh. And so I think part of it was like I knew, and I actually understood the container enough to know that it was going to lead me the same way that Inspirational Book Writers does. So I was like, oh, I'm in a container that I get into book writing. And I knew, I'm assuming you knew the same thing when you signed up with them, that you're going to end up in a book at the end of it that becomes a best-selling book. Like that's the intention. If I follow what you'd say, this is what's going to happen. Don't stray. Just do the things.
This is not the time to get creative. Be creative in the book, but outside of the book, do exactly what you were told. Yeah.
And so then I walked into this place and I was like, I understood the container. I understood how I can work inside of the container and understand. I'm like, well, you've done this with enough thousands of however many people that if I just plug in, here it is. Finally, I don't have to walk this long path of like going free speaking for years and years and years to get to that place. You're just going to tell me and I can have it in 3 months. Yes, please. And so part of it was just like knowing finally, like, I'm allowed to be whoever the hell I want to be and do it in the way that feels the best for me and not care what other people think. And there is a piece of that, right? Like, how dare you have it be so easy, which isn't easy, by the way.
Yeah. Well, so that was a part of, is like, you had a notion of how being a paid speaker was supposed to go. I don't know. It sounds like very similar to like almost being like a stand-up comedian. It's like, well, yeah, you got to do your open mics. You got to do, 3-4 a week,
right? The music.
Yeah. all that stuff where it's, it's just like, well, that, and especially if you've paid your dues like 2, 3, 4, 5 times in other industries, you're just like, I don't want to fucking do another 10-year and start from the bottom. And yeah, so I get it. I think there's a lot of things which is why I did like going through inspirational book writers, is like, I want to write a book, but I don't want to spend 4 years, and I don't want to be, and I don't want to be agonizing over what font, and, do I want double space or 1.25? Like, I went through all that doing my dissertation for my Ph.D. in electrical engineering. Like, that was actually a big part of it, is all the typesetting. So it's not that I hadn't done that shit. I had done that, and I knew what a pain in the ass it is for ultimately little joy and value to me. So when someone's like, hey, I got the shit that's good enough to get you bestseller, I was like, okay, I see the value. And I'm guessing you saw that value as well.
Yeah.
So the right guide was a big part of it, it sounds like.
Yes. I think that's part of, like, whenever you have leaps, really, it's like that in some way there's a knowing inside that this is an aligned thing for you. And for me, it's usually, what they say is luck, right? But it's not. It's like preparation. And it was all there for me, right? Like, I wouldn't have gotten into the program. I wouldn't have been ready to even look at that if I wasn't in the place that I knew in myself, I'm ready for this. This is what I want.
Yeah.
Right. And then when all of a sudden it was like, here, I'm going to now show you. And I think this is something that a lot of people actually will have a lot of resistance in these moments, is I'm going to show you how to do this really easy. And it's not easy, right? Because it's not. Like, there's going to be work in front of me and a lot of stuff in front of me, right? But I'm going to show you how to do this in a way that you don't actually have to like question it or think too hard about it, right? It's like through book writing, right? I just have to say, okay, the first part is sit down and write the book. Okay, the next part is, yep, all that shit's going to come up, but they know all the stuff that's going to come up. Mm-hmm. They know the part that's just like a conveyor belt is what they'll say, right? And so as long as I just get on the conveyor belt, as long as I keep moving down the conveyor belt, it'll work, right?
Yeah, it's like you still have to do all of the work and the effort to go through the process, but you don't have to figure out the process. There's none of this. Okay, well, let me try this thing. That didn't work. Well, let me try this thing. That didn't work. That part's been taken away. And I don't know why, but we think that that's somehow virtuous. I think this goes to, the hard work being a virtue of like, what you're supposed to just grind it out. And it's like, why? This is who?
Right. And this is that piece. Like, you can make a decision in these moments. And I think a lot of people will make the choice, first of all, to let that be a stopping point, because there's an investment in it. Wasn't not a like, oh, by the way, here, you can have everything on a silver platter, but you're not going to actually have to pay for this or think that you're going to invest your time, money, and energy. Right. And so this is the place where you have to. So of course, that also means that we have to look at our time and our energy. And it's like, do I have time to put this? Do I have the energy to put to this? And I already had a busy launch schedule and all sorts of other things coming up in my life. And I was like, do I actually have time for this? And a lot of people would have said no. A lot of people at that moment, right? They'll go, oh my God, this couldn't possibly be this easy. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I'm not doing this. Yeah. And I've probably done it before. Let's be real. But I'd never seen anything quite like this. I hadn't. Otherwise, I might not have. And I think that those moments, because there was, and I looked at them and I told them, and I will be honest, like in the sales conversation, like the biggest hurdle for us to overcome right now is the belief that I am the person, or I can be the person who does this. Mm-hmm. It wasn't money. It wasn't that I hadn't done it in the past. It was, I had to have the belief that you also have to have the belief in me that I am the person who can show up and be this person in this program that can create this result, because it's been done. So if it's been done before, someone else can do this now. It's just a matter of whether I could do it. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is many people that have done it, there's probably many people who have signed up and managed to not do it despite all the best effort, the best coaching, the winning formula. One of my coaching friends had a session with her last week, and she was poking at me of like, Justin, I could put the perfect coaching business plan in front of you, and you would probably still like not do it. Like, what the fuck is going on with you? Like, what's the block? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm still using a lot of my dad's business tactics in my own life. So I had to do some inner work. And that's what I did this past weekend, was like really look at all the things of what does it mean to be in business and blah. Yeah. Because it really is like, yeah, am I ready to be that person? I'm wondering how much for you of that person is just being like happy doing what they love. And if you've finally got to a place where it's like, yeah, I'm that woman. I'm doing that.
It's
Whereas
totally
in the past,
come up.
I would have been like, I can't be that. No, I can't.
It's totally come up in book writing conversations. I don't know if maybe it's been since you haven't been in our weekly calls lately, but I've said it a few times. I've had to overcome almost guilt and shame that I get to come and do things in my life that literally I feel orgasmic doing. Like, this is my work and I get paid to do this. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it gets like, it really, really. And like all these other people are like working so hard and like drained. But the stuff that actually is my work is the stuff that makes me feel so dang good. That's why I also knew, like, writing books, I literally feel orgasmic most of the time, even through the pain of writing the book that we wrote together. There was orgasmic feelings for me the whole week. And it feels so good for me to do the work that I do that it's almost like, well, that must be what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think a lot of people will resist that because it's like, how dare we actually feel good? How dare it actually turn me on to do what I freaking love doing, and that I could actually get paid abundantly for it. And then I don't have to like sell my time, right? Again, like, yes, it's still time. It's 60 minutes. But like, I think of it, I'm like, that's not a lot.
You've done it for free. So,
right? I'm like, oh, you want to pay me what most people might make in a month for 60? Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if like a lot of this goes back to how a lot of our education system is set up. Because, as I was mentioning, the critiques, from my third grade teacher, like there's a lot of things listed that are good, and then all the weaknesses or the areas of improvement. And what do we put all of our effort into? It's the areas of improvement, instead of going like, oh, wait, I'm good at all these things. Let's do more stuff of that. And then let's just figure out how to get around the
I was literally
weaknesses.
I was literally talking to Sam, my 11-year-old, yesterday, 2 days ago. And we were talking about because I was telling him about how I've made this decision. And I said to him, I was like, I just want you to know, because he has some talking stuff at school. And I said, I just want you to know that every single class talking, like, get in trouble for talking. You get in trouble for talking too much.
I'm like, it was talking stuff.
Talking stuff. Sorry.
Talking stuff.
Then didn't you get that?
Is that a drug, or is he saying swear words, or
no, he likes to he has
a lisp? Does he talk like an Aussie? And they're just like, why is he
what is he saying? So anyway. So I was talking to him about it, and I said, when I was in elementary school, every single year, I was like, I can remember sitting away from the class next to the teacher across the room some way because I was too busy talking to my friends. I also was in special writing programs because my grammar and my writing sucked so bad. And to this day, my mom would still tell you she cringes at reading my writing. And I laugh and I say exactly what you just said, Justin, because my two biggest problems in school, I am now choosing to be paid for. It's like we can take these judgments from people and say, yeah, or like, that was my gift, right? It's always been. But then we smash it down and say, we can't possibly have that thing that is so easy and so natural for you be your gift that you could go make money for it, right?
Yeah, that's wild. Well, I'm glad you've taken the leap, and so I would highly recommend anybody that would like to hear Keri now, like, use the podcast and see her writings, get the books, because otherwise it's probably going to start costing you a pretty penny here in the next few months. So might as well try to get in as soon as you can to see her speak, so you can tell people like, oh yeah, I saw Keri talk to a room of 30 people at a DoubleTree at a podcast conference in Schenectady somewhere. Yeah. And then people are like, oh my gosh, really? I mean, I tried to get in to see her speak at Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, but I don't like Tony Robbins because it's just all marketing. I can't believe she's affiliated with that because she sold out. So I wish you good luck and you're selling out and disappointing your original fans.
I don't think you'll find me on a Tony Robbins stage.
I mean, he's so big. Where would you fit? He's a massive man, but he's in shape. I don't know. Like the guy has some magic. So I don't fault anyone who gets into Tony Robbins and has done Tony Robbins. It's like, it's great. Just, yeah. I'm
just be expected to be really fucking tired by the end.
he's just no longer for me. And that's the other thing is we all have seasons of, who's going to help us now and then who's not. So
yeah.
Anything else you want to? I feel like we've done good on this topic. I feel like we
did good. I don't know. Do you want to put some? You're really good at this. You haven't put really any of your insights. I feel like you have some really beautiful insights around starting new things.
So there's starting something, and then there's actually getting into something and sustaining it. Mm-hmm. And I think those are two different things. Because I sometimes love to start something. I probably have a lot of like offers and things where I've started. Like I think I was to help people start podcasts. I think I have, like 10 pages of, equipment to buy and how to pick your host, but I never sustained it into an actual, these things came up that were more important. And that can be okay. And so I think one is, if you're like, there is something that is super important, find a way to get on the hook. So like, Keri, I think you signing up with this program where they're going to drag you through the process. Just like, and us with the book writing thing, it's like they drag you through the process. They're like, yeah, there's going to be a time where you're like, I don't want to do this. And then we're just going to come and like poke at you and make you do it. So I'd say that is an important thing about like really starting something with the intention to become the person who actually does the thing. Don't do it alone. Like put some money on it one way or the other. And that's why, but a lot of people listening might go like, this is like, that's not cool, but it's very common in the coaching space and actually in a lot of business to sell a product that does not exist yet. To have an offering like, I'm going to teach you over an 8-week period how to become, the Superman workout, whatever. And then once it's sold, then, okay, I guess I better fucking come up with the material to deliver. But a lot of software products are like that. A lot of video games now are more and more like that, where it's like you buy it and you basically bought the beta. They're still finishing the product, but because they sold it to a bunch of people, now they're going to finish it. So as long as you'll eventually deliver the goods, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that can be a good way to ensure you actually do finish the goods. Because if it's, well, I'm gonna create the thing, and then when I've created the thing, then I'm going to figure out who to sell it to. There's a good chance that might never happen. So I think it's, either have somebody could put you on the hook by paying them or have someone pay you and then you owe them some. I think that is a really good way to truly make the leap is, I don't think many leaps actually happen by themselves. There's the appearance of luck, but I think it's just because usually we're just our view is so narrowed like that, what was it? Speaker Lab? What are they called? They've probably been at like 14 other conferences you've been to, just you never noticed.
Never saw it.
The guy was probably like, I've seen you walk by these things. Like, what do you mean you were? So
yeah, it's so true what you just said though. I mean, like literally when I sent Justin a message, I told him about this and his response was, I think it's probably something like, how can I support you? And my response was basically like, hold me accountable to this. And hence we're here on a podcast because it's going to mean that if I show up on this podcast and I say this, you better freaking keep moving forward, Keri. And I've told my closest friends, and it's true because I could even go into this program. And I specifically told some of my closest friends, because I was like, you guys, I know I want to cark on myself on this. Like, I can feel it. I can feel how easy it would be for me to sit here and sign up for that and not do anything. And so that's why I specifically told some of my closest friends, because I was like, I know you guys won't let me fall down on this, because everybody who I've told this to has been like, fuck yeah, that's exactly what you should be doing, Keri. And then I get this full circle of support that's like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I know that when those moments when I am scared that I would all my other weird freaking imposter stuff or whatever comes up, it'll be just a message. I'll go, hey, Justin, or hey, so-and-so. And you guys will make me like, okay, go Keri. But it's part of that is actually a part of, I think, exactly what you've said, even in that. And what I've just said is being willing to even say, I want the support to keep going because it means enough for me. It means enough to me to say to somebody, can you please help me make sure that I keep doing this and hold me accountable to myself? I don't need you to do this for me, but I need you to help me stay accountable to myself. And because we can totally cark out on stuff. And when it's important enough, it's really important that we have the support around us to get it done.
Yeah. And I don't know, just I'm thinking of, the whole book launching process, which it doesn't stop. The book is always there. And people always go like, oh, how's the book doing? And it's one of those, like, I have like what I would like in my mind. And then there's like how it is. But then there's something about that question that is like supportive of like, they want it to be doing well. And then it's like, well, okay, how could I make it, how could I do something to support the book or whatever? And it makes me think like, well, I guess I could post about it, or I don't know, I could tell the next person I meet that I have the fucking book. And so it's just like those little things, even if it's like, okay, I'm maybe not doing as big as I want to yet, even if I'm just doing 10%, that's way better than the zero that it would have been if didn't put it out there, didn't have the support, and then didn't have the people kind of coming back later and going like, yeah, what's going on with that? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, that's right. I do want to do something. And you take at least one or two steps, and yeah, all this stuff, even if it doesn't happen as quickly or as bigly, it's happening. And when you're enjoying it, when it's something that makes you feel orgasmic. Did you say osgasmic? Is that? It's going to be Keri's fifth book.
There's an accident with the orgasm.
How to have the pleasure of life from down under. So I'm also available for, spitballing ideas and coming up with titles and things like that. So, it doesn't just have to be coaching. I can also offer my creative services.
If you ever decide to have a coaching session with Justin, be prepared for deep questions that make you laugh.
Gotta go to the depths of your orgasmic pleasure down under. Just come on out to my dick. That's how they say it. I'm doing a New Zealand accent because there's a whole YouTube video where there's this guy, a Kiwi, talking about his deck. But he says it in a way.
And you go to 6. I'm going to get some fish and chips. I'm going to have 6 of them.
All right. Yeah. I just want to tell people to, find you on Facebook, Keri Norley, KeriNorley 1. That's on Facebook. And then it's without the 1 at Instagram. So definitely follow, for podcasts and books and crypto, and not too distant future, there's going to be public speaking opportunities. So if you go to places where people speak in public, Keri will be there and charge you.
multi places at one time on all the dimensions and all the time and space.
Yeah. And bring chocolate because she loves chocolate and dancing. So, and
come have a boogie with me and ask for a hug because I like hugging.
Ask for it.
Ask first.
Yeah. Ask, I want a hug. Can I have one? And she might say yes, or she might say no. But if you don't ask, you'll never know.
I think that's really pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Just like my Norwegian manager told me while I was working in Germany. He said, nice boys don't ask, nice boys don't get. Yep. Deep thoughts. I don't know why it was so gendered, but probably when he was a little boy in Norway. I don't know. His big, beautiful eyes and his sparkly skin and big eyelashes. She sees, it was just looked like your stereotypical Norwegian godlike person. I was like, where am I? I'm supposed to be doing nerd engineering with this guy, and I'm just lost in his eyes. I mean, it's just, yeah. So maybe that'll be in a future book of mine. Justin Gets Lost.
Yeah, Justin, speaking of new things, Justin does have a new book coming.
Yeah. Well, and I also know
sometime.
Yeah. I also know not to talk about it until it's close to ready.
It's coming.
I've learned.
There's a new one coming.
Yeah.
I feel it. Just like I have 5 million more coming. By the way, when you start to get into this world, for anyone who's listening, and then we can wrap this. By the way, Because if you look at me and you say there's 4, and Justin, whenever he decides to put out another one or he does another thing or wherever he's going with all this, once you start, you kind of can't, like, it's kind of delicious and divine and wonderful. And like, once you do one, you kind of want to keep going. I don't know anyone. They're just amazing. So like, if you are listening to this and you are called into the messenger world, whether you choose to walk all the way into the path that I have all the way straight into getting paid to speak, or whether it is the start of going into being an author, going into doing any of this podcasting, it's an amazingly, and I say this because as much as I started the beginning of this saying, like, it's a long road, and it isn't, I'm not kidding. And I can say, Justin, I'm sure Justin would agree. It's not like financially the most like immediate experience of money for a lot of people to start this path, but it is one of the most rewarding I have ever.
Oh yeah. And so I would say, don't quit your day job. I know I haven't until, you know. Oh, and also I'll add a word of caution is once you decide that you want to do something completely new, you really want to leap into something completely different than your everyday norm. We were talking about telling people, but the caveat is tell people that are going to be supportive.
Yes.
Probably don't tell your family, don't tell your close friends, because they're going to be like, well, what if there's this little voice in their head that's going to be like, well, shit, what if they are successful? They're not going to want to hang out with me. And then they'll feel lonely and they'll feel sad, and they don't want to feel sad. So they'll get angry and they'll be like, well, that's a stupid idea. Do you know how much work that's going to be? No one's going to listen to you. So find people that are doing what it is you want to do already, have done that, and are going to go like, that's awesome. Like, yeah, how can I help you with that? Because
totally.
I'm an author, but I'm also a Toastmaster. I did lots of Toastmasters, which is lots of public speaking. So I know the road of public speaking. I just haven't been paid yet for it. But I'm always a big supporter of people public speaking. So someone's like, I'm thinking of public speaking. I'm like, yeah, do it anywhere, whatever, find a way.
Totally.
So yeah, be careful of who you say that I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
Your average person is going to take a big shit on you. And it's not because they hate you, even though they might say, I hate you. You'll never be good at this. It's because they love you so much. They don't want to lose you in their life. And they might feel threatened. Yeah. So, yeah. So when you have the friends that you can, that's when things are going really well, is when you have the friends that you can always say like, this is what I'm doing. And they're just like, yes, that sounds great. Do that. I have friends like that now. Yeah.
Unless, of course, you're making a really bad decision, and then you want the same friends to say that's a really bad decision.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. If it's like, yeah, someone's going to help me get into public speaking, they're only charging $1 million. I'm about to sign over my house. I'm like that. No, don't. No. Don't do. Yeah. 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 More and more, if I think I'm going to do something, I run it by a friend or two and go like, what is it? And they're like, you don't need that shit. A lot of them are like, you don't need that shit. I'm like, you're just wasting your time at this point. Like, you just go do things.
There is a line. There is a fine line.
So yeah, with that, let's wrap up the show. So thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for
Keri.
listening.
Good day, mate. Good day. And you can find me, Justin Wink, Ph.D. on all the socials, and you can email podcast@justinwink.com. And I think I already said you'll just look at the show notes for Keri. And thanks so much, Keri, for being on the show. It's been a delight to, we've been talking on the podcast for a long time, and we made it happen. So thank you for taking the leap, which forced another leap of you being on the show. Thank you so much. And with that, good day.